Well, hi, James. We are back for another session. How are things going at Paxade Academy?
Oh, great. Um, Even going into the end of the year, it's still very busy and we've got a lot planned for next year. It's interesting seeing all the partners are typically very busy now as well. I think the COVID fog has lifted for everyone.
Yep, travel's back. They're all socializing again. Have you got anything big that you can share that's happening next year?
We're gonna be launching a more courses that we've been doing. We're launching peer group programs as well, so it's going to be quite exciting to actually get a community up and going, and the courses have been really resonating with partners because, to be honest, there hasn't been much education for MSPs down in this part of the world. So, a bit of pent up demand, and everyone wants to help and invest in their people, which is awesome.
Hmm. Cool. Well, today we are going to talk about budgets and what MSPs need to do to invest in marketing, whether they need to put 20K budget a month behind it, or whether they can survive with perhaps the in-house team or outsourcing. What that kind of looks like, what's realistic. So perhaps you could start with sharing what the kind of mindset is of MSPs right now and what they think they should or shouldn't be spending.
There's really probably three speeds of MSP thinking. There's the ones that are very happy that they've grown to the size they are through organic referrals and they're going to stick with that plan. But anytime I scratch the surface with that, most people realize that they're not getting as many leads and not getting as much new business as they need and want.
Hmm.
So they're not really spending anything and they're proud that they don't spend money on marketing.
Hmm.
There's the middle ground where people are spending some money and have spent a lot of money in the past and have been burnt.
Hmm.
And they know they've got to do something but are a bit lost about it. And then the third are quite mature in, they've got a strategy like what we've spoken about, and then they're applying longer term ROI on it. So they're clearly budgeting it. That sort of fits into the service leadership model that the mature companies spend between 5 to 7% of their overall revenue on a marketing budget.
Hmm.
And I think that's going to open the whole conversation up of what that actually could look like. But just
Yeah.
to reiterate, five to 7% of total revenue goes
Yeah.
towards marketing,
Hmm.
and the sort of best practice spend on sales is 3 to 5%. But what I often see is the balance is flipped the other way.
Yeah.
There's often a lot more sales spend to marketing, and you're not necessarily seeing the growth trajectory. So when it's sort of sitting in that total 10% sales and marketing spend, and it's well focused and it's
Hmm.
well balanced, they're the businesses that are growing that 20% or above year on year revenue, um, as opposed to that sort of 10 to 20% that an average business would just grow by being around.
Yeah. What I'm seeing are some of the ones that I've spoken to, they don't have that sales engine in place, but then they know they need to do marketing, and they then think, oh, well, marketing's going to solve my problem. But then without that sales component, it's just going to fall through. And when they're talking to us as well, they're coming to us perhaps at the kind of level one mindset that you were referring to. But then when they're saying what their marketing goals are and actually communicating that with us, they're communicating a level three. So there's a disconnect as well because then their budget reflects a level one. So it's all kind of all over the shop in where they're at, and then what their growth actually means. Um, and whether it's a miscommunication with marketing and going, well, actually, I am happy with just building up some sort of presence on social media so that I do have that kind of digital online business card. People can see my reputation and I can just build it organically. And that's totally fine if you are dead set in a level one. But if you do have the level three kind of goals, really aggressive, you want to grow the business, one, need to make sure that you've got sales involved and you've got that engine, because we need to work together. It's not going to work just one or the other. Like you say, the ones you come across mainly have got the sales engine but not marketing, where it's funny, I'm also seeing it the other way around as well. But also being at the top end, you don't need to have an infinite budget. You need to be wise with the decisions that you're making. And then that's where it comes back to what I've shared in our previous talks about the knowing the target audience and using the right campaigns and making sure that any budget that is spent or allocated, you're making sure you're bridging that gap, so that if you do invest heavily in marketing, then when the leads are all they're fronted to you, then you know how to close it and know how to kind of bring it full circle. So yeah, that's what I'm seeing at the moment.
So if I was to give advice based on those sort of levels we're talking about, like if you're an MSP and you're not sure where the next steps are, typically I coach through, well, let's get like our basic sales operations in place first. Let's make sure we've got our routine sales can just happen with quote templates. We can get a sales support person just to churn out routine quotes and get an account manager talking about generating projects, and make sure that you know what your white space, your opportunity matrix actually is. What do we sell and deliver?
Mm-hmm.
Get that running first. I've worked with businesses where I've doubled their business just by doing those simple things because they're not doing it. So rather than chucking money at marketing, probably already have the resources and already have a pipeline.
But
Take
they're,
these.
yeah, well, when they are investing in marketing, it's so easy for them to get caught up in making the sales process a lot easier or prettier, or let's do some fun stuff on social media, and let's do our Christmas messages, and let's create a banner for our email signatures, and that's all great, and yes, it falls under the marketing banner. But then later on, when you're coming knocking on marketing's door going, hey, you didn't give sales any leads, well, let's look back at the activity that you wanted us to do. So making sure that you've not just got someone in doing marketing and you're assigning them tasks that they can fill their time with on social. What are they actually building? What is the funnel, and how they're actually going to get people interested and engaged to bridge a conversation to sales? Don't get them caught up in too much of sales. Whilst I'm saying the communication and they need to work together, don't have marketing be the sales guys, one who makes the presentation prettier and stuff like that. Use them wisely.
And I think at that point, like I'd, I'd go right back to the level one and go, don't even spend money on marketing. It's like you just distract everything.
Yep.
And going to our point, our conversation that we had the other day was around having a strategy. And that once you've got that sort of base foundational sales component in place, the next thing that you do is start to understand who our clients are, what are our actual sales flow processes. Like I'm very mindful to say flow, because when we talk about processes, we're more technical. We think of all this sort of detail that needs to go step by step. Sales and marketing, while there's some science behind it, there's always an art form to this, and it's a flow. How do they go through how do we qualify them? How do they go through our pipeline and our funnel? What main things do we need to tick off? They might not all go through the same way, where we expect that to happen in all our other operations in the business. So once you got the foundations in place, start to build that sort of high level flow and start to develop that strategy, and then start looking at what marketing activity to start doing. And like you said, typically we go to the whole fun LinkedIn posts and stuff like that. That doesn't help. I've never seen anyone get results from that. It's you just being present. It just makes the page active, but it does nothing.
It makes the page active. You get maybe some engagement with it, a comment or there, but it isn't that conversation starter. It can add up to an important touch point. I'm not saying your Christmas message is going to be what's, an important touch point, but, it's something that you can do. But and you're right in likening it to the other aspects of the business, like a production line. You'll have it go through the rigorous different steps. Just building out a funnel this morning, we're looking at, all right, what is this big juicy piece of content that we can give that's actually going to solve one of our target audience's problems. All right, okay, now let's take it back. Now we know that this is the meat that they want to get hold of, but hold on a minute, they don't even know who you are. How can we get in front of them from a brand awareness perspective? Then what do they need in order to build the trust, and they can do their research on us or perhaps the topic, and then feed them through to the juicy piece of content. Now, it's not as simple as then, all right, now that they've seen our brand awareness ad, now they've, engaged with read a couple of our articles, now they've downloaded my ebook. Oh, instantly they're going to move now straight into the next page where they're making their decision and then going through and selling. It doesn't work that way. People are blurry, and especially with so much content out there, when they do see your content, people know how to use Google. They'll know how to look around, what else is on offer. You've now just opened their mind to something they perhaps aren't aware of. How can we keep them engaged and keep circling them back? What are you doing beyond giving them that juicy ebook? And then is there any content that you can then send them back to? It's not really, whilst we, again, like you say, the science, explain it as a funnel and we build it for those different mindsets. People are blurry. They'll go up and down and circle around, and yeah. But it's making sure that you understand, all right, as much as possible, we know that this target audience typically goes through this journey. This is the content they're most interested in, and this is roughly how we can pinpoint how they've engaged on our website and what content's of most interest, and try and replicate it and see and keep evolving. But a different target audience would perhaps follow a different flow. So yeah, there's a lot to consider when it comes to building out the content, and that takes time, money, and resources.
So far as $1 million MSP, because this helps my simple brain. If I was going to spend 70 grand, because I just heard myself say 7% is what the guys do. 70 grand in a year is a lot. Is it for marketing?
Yes. But this is where, again, they'll go, all right, I need to do marketing. Should I hire internally or should I outsource? Now, again, not, you may hire the best candidate, but marketing is blurry. There's so many components. It's evolving. It's just like your MSP. You've got your different levels of, IT support, different engineers. You've then got now cybersecurity is a whole different ball game. You're not going to hire just one IT guy, or this is the pitch that you guys give to your audience. You're not going to hire someone internally and be able to wear a million hats. It's exactly the same with marketing. I don't want to put anyone down who works in an MSP, but there are so many hats and there are so many things to consider. There are different qualifications. They all take, a huge amount of time. By hiring someone, you're going to do a little bit okay. Like, you're going to be a lot, but not extremely well. And that's where, if you did outsource, that's where you could look at getting someone to be able to tap into all these different resources. So when you build out your unique funnel, you can get the right skill sets for the right things at the right point, rather than try and get a jack of all trades.
Oh, that's a good point. Like, I've coached a few people that have been looking at hiring people internally. I get it. You want to feel like you're in control of it. You want to be able to influence it. One of the things, I know we've mentioned this a couple of times, everyone thinks you can just hire someone internally and it just all magically happens. That's not the case. It's actually worse internally than someone outsourced, because someone outsourced will actually push you to get stuff, where someone internally will just like collapse under not getting anything and just try and do what they can do.
Yeah.
If just paint a picture, like you could hire someone really good internally,
Hmm.
probably for 70K. You're going to struggle for a high level resource,
Yeah.
much like our MSP.
Hmm.
But let's just you fall onto someone. It's not going to cover everything.
Hmm.
Um, so when we talk about like the budget, it, you just spend that $70,000 on that person.
Hmm.
There's your entire marketing budget gone.
Gone. Hmm.
So any Google ads, LinkedIn ads, any physical material you need to print, any website changes you need, if you need to rebuild your website, that's not in the budget. And that's often what I see from that sort of middle ground people where they're not mature enough to understand a lot of this, and they go and spend. They don't realize the different components and the different marketing type activities. Like
Hmm.
I mentioned a couple, like everyone thinks marketing is just electronic these days, but
Hmm.
it's not. Um, you know, the physical material, the
Hmm.
going to events,
Yep.
holding your own events. Like, there's just four types. I know there's a lot more than that, but I'll keep it simple for my simple brain. All of those have costs. So if you've
Yeah.
only got a resource and that's how much you've allocated to spend on marketing, and I can already feel some light bulb moments going off for people that they've felt the whole, oh, we need $3,000 a month to do Google AdWords now, then that budget keeps expanding and expanding and expanding and they're not getting results.
Hmm.
So when this is why we keep going back to this is why you need strategy before you
Yeah.
spend and set a budget, because otherwise you're just flying blind, throwing money left, right, and center.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, they'll again when they do then start talking to the outside agency, they're going, all right, this is how much I've got. But even then, they're generally going to be quoting on perhaps their services, and MSPs perhaps don't know what they should be spending on ads, and that's again where an external resource could, again, has the skills and the experience to be able to go, all right, you need to, if we're going to run these campaigns and build the strategy, this is how much budget you should allocate for it. Whereas internally, they, again, may not have the skill set, or that will take up and consume a lot of their time. Um, so yeah, there's a lot to consider.
It's very much like the MSP business. It's like
Mhm.
the mature MSPs sell their services and then they sell subscriptions on top.
Yep, we have
It's
very
not, it's,
similar models.
it's funny that.
Yeah, it's funny that, but yeah, there's that disconnect. So, yeah, you need to make sure that when you are looking at your budget, that you are allocating it to whatever kind of resource plus the budget, for ads, and making sure then you're looking into the right platforms that are going to give you the best return, that also understand that actually, when it comes back to when we were saying what people are searching for on Google and referring to ourselves as managed services, yes, there are people searching for it. Again, a smaller number, and again, if it is a niche search, you may can increase the conversion rate, because they know what they're looking for and then hopefully find you. So that's SEO. That's a whole other ball game. But yeah, using ads, like, for people that aren't generally searching for those terms, may not be the best use. When you're going, I need to be on social media. Okay, well, you want to have your Facebook presence because that's where people switch off and spend their downtime. But then you're chucking out a an ebook that they're not really engaged with or not in that mindset for. And you can't also on Facebook, and this is just predominantly for MSPs, get the right targeting that they want. So by using LinkedIn, a more costly platform, you're actually able to drill down and get the right industry of the right level, and make sure it is targeted. but don't expect as well to put all the budget, in and then expect results. Even LinkedIn have said in one of their recent reports that, you're not going to expect really a return from a sales perspective till months 9 or 10. Yet, I have MSPs going, oh, so I've tried, LinkedIn. How long did you try it for? I did it for a month. It's, yeah, you've got to also give this stuff time, but they're, because they've, if they are allocating 5 to 7%, huge amount if they've not done it before, and then we're going, all right, and you're not going to see a return on that for 9 to 10 months. It's even more of a bigger experiment that they're worried about. What if, I have invested all this, and that's where they've perhaps been burnt in the past, but you have to do it. You have to give it a try. But you can't expect it overnight.
So far as $1 million MSP, I hadn't done marketing before, and I had 70,000 to spend. What would you point me to do? I'm starting from scratch.
Oh, there's a lot more than just say what can I do. Uh, Making sure that you are splitting up the budget in the various different areas, but it comes back down to, again, this is a $1 million MSP that's level 1, 2, or 3. What are the goals? What is the strategy? Do you have that media content? Do you already have awareness? Are you trying to go out to a new audience that you've never spoken to before, or is this one that you may already have a database for that we can try and find lookalike audiences? So we may not need as big a budget. There's so many different things to consider. So how that can be sliced and diced all depends on your goals. I'm not sure if that is the answer that you were looking for, but
Well, it sounds like it's the right answer, because I always hear MSPs are looking for the silver bullet. It's
hmm
just like, oh, I want to solve my marketing problem. Much like how we get prospects coming to us and going,
yeah,
I want all these problems solved, but I
hmm
don't want to spend that much.
yeah,
So how do we deal with that? We either keep chasing someone until they say they can do it for this much and they won't produce the results, which most of us have made the mistakes of with getting burnt with outsourced marketing before.
hmm
Or we need to stop and create a strategy and find what's in, what's out. How do we best use the budget that we've got?
yeah. And different platforms have different like average cost per clicks as well. So and the different audiences will have that. So the advertising on Facebook is going to be far different to Google Ads and LinkedIn. So when it comes to creating a budget, we can make educated decisions or based on the data that's available and kind of averages. But yeah, you want to, again, make sure you're not just going, oh, well, Facebook's going to give me a really cheap, cost per click. Let's just put money in there if your audience is not there. But if we want to be successful and how competitive it is, Facebook's extremely competitive. They put the power, far easier into other people's hands so that anyone can now boost their post and build ads. It's not overly complicated. Again, I say that as a marketer that does this all the time. But then on, yeah, LinkedIn and having the smarts and doing things right, you want to make sure that you're using the budget and optimizing it effectively so that you don't just go, all right, okay, well, I'll throw 3 grand a month at it, and then you just watch it disappear and not get any results because you haven't set things up right. Yeah, but turning around saying whether it needs to be 3,000 or 5,000 because we've got the competition, a lot more people are doing it. But in my experience, not many are advertising on LinkedIn.
Well, I think my takeaway and final thought from this is strategy is important,
hmm
and we need to know our goals. We need to have sort of the end in mind and a direction and a focus.
hmm
I know I've told many MSPs before of if you don't know what you're doing, don't spend the money and stop spending. Get a plan before you do it. If you want to give me any money for free, I'll get you the same sort of results. Just putting it out there, but legitimately stopping and doing a plan and strategy is far more important than just randomly doing stuff and spending money. It's not a throw stuff at the wall and find out. while it's an art, there is a bit of science to put behind it. So that'd be my advice for people listening into this is don't just go because I said spend 7% of your marketing budget, your revenue on a marketing budget. Don't start there. Start with what are we trying to achieve?
Yeah.
Who are our people? Who are we targeting, etc. And then work out a budget and what makes sense to get started from there.
Yeah. And same. I definitely strategy, and I try to identify which one of those levels you are. Are you happy with level one, building your organic? Don't invest, or get someone to just do odd posts if you want a presence, if you want to keep that going and be seen as the brand, keep the brand alive if you want. Level two or level three, what clearly define those goals. And don't just wave around. All right, now I know I need the 7%. Here's my budget. What should I do with it? Make sure before you go talking to, a marketing company or whatnot, that you do know where you're heading, what's affordable, and just be aware that when you do speak with them, make sure that they have put forward a price for both any ongoing marketing services plus the an ads budget, because again, there are a lot of MSPs aren't going out to audiences that they have been in front of before, and they pretty much all lack brand awareness. So they're and that's not gonna it's an important part of the funnel, but it's again, not going to be that high return. So account for that and how that needs to be divided up. That's the whole science in itself. So just be aware of where your money needs to be spent. Cool. Well, thank you very much for joining me today. Another great session, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Thanks for having me.